at least start warming up a bit. I think a couple of more people who are.
Still talk about everything with us.
So there are a couple of them they're coming, so I thought we'll start because in the interest of time, for those of you who were kind enough to turn up on time, right? So my name is Gaurav. I've got my colleague partner Karthik also with me. We're partners at Deloitte with the cyber practice. I mean, I think a lot of us introduced each other, but if you don't mind, we can have a quick round of introductions. Slightly easier for each one of us to have a change, if you don't mind. Puran, we can probably start with you.
Okay. Hi, my name is Puran Deswal. I work with a company called TBC. I've been with the company for the last 8 years and over 22 years of experience in IT. So, in fact, more than 15 years in retail.
Thanks, Puran.
Hi, my name is Manoj Patel. I am working for Safari Industry from last 1.5 years. I have total experience of 50 plus years in retail domain.
Hi, my name is Omesh Bhujbal. I am CTO for Nexus Select Malls for the last 2 years. Previous to that, I had a long stint in telecom with Idea and then Vodafone. Basically, over 20 years of experience in IT.
Hi, my name is Anil Shankar. I'm part of Tata International, the global IT for Tata International. So it is less of retail, more of building business right now for me. But retail are my roots. I've been associated with ReTechCon right from the inception. So this is like another lecture to come here. Thanks Deloitte for inviting this session and I as well.
Hi, my name is Zahid. I had IT for 4 years. We are a women's fashion brand based out of Australia. I take care of IT for the India business.
What?
Good evening all. My name is Binaykiya. I look after ERP and IT systems for P&RE and Sales Limited. I've been working with them for 7 to 8 years now. And for retail experience, I've been working with P&RE and Sales right from the start.
Great. I think pleasure to have all of you here, and I know it's been probably a long day for most of you.
Yeah.
Into sessions, right? So we'll try to keep it not a monologue, but would appreciate if feel free to come in. We thought we'll talk about a subject which is obviously very, very important from the overall aspects of supply chain security, because the industry that we are in, obviously there's a lot of dependence on the supply chain, both on what comes in and how the finished products and the goods kind of go out. So, because at the end of the day, any single leg kind of or any single spoke breaks down, then it can have an impact on the overall business, right? So that's what we'll try and talk about today. Yeah, I mean, if I look at it, and I have a few pages, obviously as a consultant, मेरा काम है कि मैं थोड़ा सा तो अच्छी कुछ slides वगैरह दिखाऊं so that people भी कुछ but yeah, what we'll do is we'll try and spend a little time on the slides, but probably more interaction to understand what can be done and what's your views on these topics, right? If I talk from an overall supply chain aspects, obviously some of these issues are definitely known. Geopolitical issues, I mean, the whole Trump effect obviously has been, I can't even say it's constant, because the way things keep changing, we don't know that next morning when we get up what's new and how is it going to impact the industry, right? So that's something which is ongoing. Wars, global wars obviously have been there. And during these global wars, obviously, there have been threats which are coming in. In fact, during the India-Pak war which was happening, since we run security operations for a lot of clients, we saw a marked increase in the threats or the attempts to attack Indian firms, right? So we were working really overtime with our clients and even the ones which were not our clients to ensure ensure that their ecosystem was safe, right? So those are aspects which are there. Obviously, it's an interconnected world, a lot, and I mean, as I say, it's an extended attack surface. Everything is on the mobile, everything is on the internet. Every one of us wants digital outreach. So as you have digital outreaches, obviously the avenues open up even more. So we had worked with it's a large luxury car manufacturer, German based, and they were planning some mass events. So what they did was they came out with I mean, one of the local, let me call it, one of the local dealers came out with a mobile app as part of the outreach. And since it's a luxury car manufacturer, all the HNI data of customers was there now. Unfortunately, the app got breached. That particular city and region's HNI data was all over town, right? So these are some of the aspects, because when technology comes up, we need to look at, okay, what is important, and that's where the extended enterprise, the third parties come in. I mean, in the aspect of going agile, going fast, do we really look at the controls per se, right? Disasters, pandemics, I mean, we've all gone through it, so nothing, I mean, I think we've all survived it, so now know how it really works. Economics, especially, I think now we are this is day 3 of GST 2.0, so I'm sure you would have been making changes on systems and all. A lot of retail clients that I work with, they told me next 2-3 weeks, don't even come and talk to us about anything. We are busy on ensuring that the GST changes have been made, right? So obviously all of this can impact the overall scheme of things. In fact, today morning I was reading an article where the small stores are still struggling to figure out how to manage this whole GST. So anything can impact the overall supply chain, right? So that's something which we need to kind of keep looking at. Anything you want to?
No, just to add, I think, thanks, Gaurav. I think I'm not going to go well into the technicalities, but we are reading a lot of media news, right? The luxury car Jaguar Land Rover, which we are seeing in the media, right? Look at the way where there is an attack and their complete production came to a halt.
Yeah.
And we heard a similar story about Marks and Spencer's a couple of months back, right? And and then what is happening is the threat vectors are changing. It's become so dynamic. Gone are the days where you are being ransomed only for the data. Now it's kind of hitting their production and also creating a lot of reputation loss. I think that's what one thing which is the industry has become so dynamic in nature, which we need to keep that in mind as a further.
In fact, the Jaguar Land Rover breach was a very complex. I mean, if when we looked at it, the way that breach happened, I mean, it really required a lot of intelligence and hard work, let me call it that way, by the people who would have done it. The way they went into the correlations and built those. I think now they have shut down the plant till 30th, right? So that's something which we need to look at, right? And obviously in all of this, there is a dependency on third parties. I mean, as simple as that. I used to work with a telecom operator before I joined Deloitte, and we were doing, and those days those KYC audits were important. So probably if you come from telecoms, you would know. We went to one of those distributors who used to do KYC audits. What he had done, he had maintained an Excel sheet कि गौरव खेरा का अगर एक कनेक्शन है, अगर suppose of it, but the key message being that obviously each and every part of our business is dependent upon partners, and it's important because then they are the ones who are helping us, and not just from the aspect of just servicing the customers, but say even from an employee perspective, right? Each employer has an insurance program which they have to run. So all the data which gets shared with the insurance agency also is something which needs to be looked at, and especially now with DPDP, the Digital Personal Data Protection Act, which is on the anvil, becomes even more critical. Right? So it's everywhere that we are looking at on this particular data. Now, Deloitte globally runs a third-party risk survey, which kind of talks about in the overall supply chain what some of those risks would be, and then we had about 1,300 odd respondents across multiple countries, right? So some of the key themes which came out was that there are challenges in terms of how people are seeing dependencies on third parties, right? But how do you really balance that? How do you balance it from the capability perspective as well? That there is a small vendor, suppose, who's printing bills, or say suppose if you have loyalty programs, and suppose you're sending a welcome letter to some of your clients as part of the welcome letter. Now you might share some details of the customer with that bill printing vendor. Now we have seen that these bill printing vendors are very, very small. They don't have any security controls. I mean, we went to their premise, we were able to get our USBs in. It was an open email access from their Gmail or whatever email address they were using. We could email it to anyone, right? So, I mean, imagine the risk that we are looking at, but then at the end of that's a typical challenge. As a business, we have to we onboard these vendors and the cost that is associated with it. Right? So how do we really ensure that they are capable enough in the same set of controls like you would have in your respective organizations, right? So this is something which is there, and obviously the geopolitical challenges we talked about. That's a key priority for most of it. Similarly, resilience is important because, and this is something which one of the large retailers of the country gets into. Listed companies, I'll not name it, but they realized it during COVID. They had a lot of small vendors, right? And when COVID struck, overnight some of these vendors had to shut shop because they were not able to manage, and that impacted this retailer's capability in servicing its operations. So over the last 3-4 years, what they have done is they have moved their vendor dependence to a little known vendors, right? So that at least the whole aspect of the vendor shutting shop and all doesn't really matter to them, right? So that's where we need to understand what those critical vendors are. We need to understand from a business point of view, okay, what would need to be done so that we are not heavily dependent, right? I mean, any scenarios from your businesses that when you have experienced something similar, at least vendors leaving you high and dry in between, any specific?
I think if I can take an example, I don't name them.
Sure.
What happens sometimes Indian typical companies, they try to save costs, and somebody like this is a new vendor. There are two ways. One is a new vendor who just started the company, giving the cost-effective solution for which is available in the market at the higher price. So to save cost, we go with a smaller vendor and then we compromise security. That's one thing which I see. Secondly, the vendor is well known in the industry, but the vendor is charging less than the people available in the market, though their company size is bigger, but they don't have the proper security posture in their organization. So a lot of companies share the data. I've seen companies like DSC working with this Moderators vendor. I won't name them, but and once you visit that vendor's premises, you can just take out any information. So I know how much Gaurav Khera is trading. I can pull out what portfolio you're using. So that kind of risk management is something which we need to all take care of it.
Right.
Which normally we miss unless somebody like Deloitte or some big firm comes in and tells us these are the risks. Because we just focus on solution and the cost.
Right.
Forget that security which we are giving away.
Right. No, absolutely. I think that's well said, Pran. I mean, we don't really, in the aspect of being cost efficient, and I can understand. I mean, I've been on the other side of the table whenever you go to the CFO to ask him for money, and he would say, "You चाहिए इतना पैसा. Let me upgrade my ERP system, or let me open a new store." Say, suppose like from a TV perspective, I used to have those discussions, right? When I was with the telecom operator, we would ask him, "यार, इतना पैसा मांग रहा है, मेरी 1.5 लाख रुपए तो साइट लग जाएगी और 3 महीने में तो मेरे पास रेवेन्यू आना शुरू हो जाएगा उससे, तो I might as well invest over there." So obviously those balances have to be made, but then it's at the cost of what the risk would be, right?
So just to add, right, especially in retail, we see the hyper personalization is becoming very, very significant for a lot of clients. For example, if I go and walk into a retail outlet, right, I have my own data, personal data, which is already given. Either I might be ending up using their app for loyalty points, etc., something on the other. So eventually, by default, the data goes.
Yeah.
And what we also do is whenever you go for a large transformation program, right, your digital footprint keeps expanding.
Yeah.
Right? So there it gives more and more you expand the digital footprint, more and more you become vulnerable. Right? And that is also applicable to your third parties.
I don't know how much.
When the third party try, right, they kind of give you a solution, a billing solution, a payment gateway solution, or a particular product or a particular platform, right? They also need to take cognizance of the fact.
No, most of them don't care. No, so I'll give you one of the scenario where somebody has, one of the partner has taken out data from one of my known customers 4 years before the company shut down. The guy who moved from that company to the other company took out all the customer data from that 4 years data, customer data, sold to someone else. Because he had access to that data and he was working on the project. Okay. Just to get some brownie points or anything, data. He got to
So
know.
what we have seen a pattern, especially in the large global multinationals, is they have a practice and they comply for the third party risk as a program. And I think every periodic intervals they continue to do and do a test on the third parties. And if they are comply, they end up continuing services with the respective third party. I think we have seen that practice which is being implemented in some of the large organizations also. Sorry,
Yeah. No,
So what is happening that the suppliers these days, a lot of them who provides software as a service, they might probably give you a software at a very economical cost, just to get the customer. But at the same time, what brands are not realizing that when you are sharing the data which you have collected, right, that data contains the customer information, right? And I think there is, so I'm just adding more here, the awareness on okay, what is the sensitive data. I think that is not there within our country. We don't realize that okay, what is a PNA. If you ask anyone, what is the personal information and why it is so sensitive. In fact, within our organization also, if I ask the marketing team or the people who are managing the loyalty program, I think they are not concerned because they don't understand that sharing somebody's mobile number is a very sensitive thing. Because in our country we are not that serious about that. We feel that mobile number ही तो है, नाम ही तो है, paper पे लिख लिया, number भी लिख लिया, and then we are not bothered. Internationally, outside India, after these GDPR and all, they are very sensitive about this. Right. But typically in a retail environment, it is not taken it that seriously. What happens that when you engage with the supplier, and I've seen a lot of suppliers are now collecting this data because they are getting this data from different brands. Now supplier knows everything. Which customer is buying at what price from which brand, which customer buys on a high cost, which is so they're doing a lot of segmentations. And then they are capitalizing on the monetization of that data. They again come back to you offering a different solution.
Exactly.
That I can actually target a specific segment of customers because I have a lot of data. Right? If I can take the name, I think there's nobody from the Paytm side involved. Paytm has a business model. You can use their platform because they have a lot of KYC approved data, which is a very authentic data. And then they offer you a solution where they can actually market. You can actually, very similar to a Facebook or a Instagram ad, that you can actually target a very specific customer because they know everything about the customer. So this is what is happening. So as a brand, you have to be very sensitive to what partners you are engaging, what contracts you are doing, because you can't build all your solutions. If I have to run my brand, I need to have a CRM solution, I need to have a CDP solution. I can't manage myself, so I need to engage with the supplier. But how supplier is managing your data, that is more important. What controls they have, what liability they have. And if you talk about liability, nobody is ready to sign a liability contract.
Absolutely.
The classic case will be insurance agreements, right? We have seen any car, four-wheeler insurance when it comes for renewal, right? You'll be getting tons of calls. And the data is out. And literally this happened few years back when my home loan got sanctioned. You will not believe my sanction letter was roaming around in WhatsApp with all the insurance agents saying you took home loan at so and so interest for so many lakhs. This is the insurance policy. Hey, what is it? Then I have to write to the bank, to the senior most guys and say, boss, what is happening with this? I think you said exactly right.
Yeah, I tell you, maximum breaches happen from the government agencies. I bought a car, I didn't register for 4 months. When I actually registered and contacted the transport authority and submitted my papers, from next day I started getting a call that you bought a car, this model you have bought it on this date, we have some offer for you. Right? My driving license was expired. When I actually submitted my papers for driving license, they actually sent me, I got a WhatsApp from an unknown number. He says that you can use our facility to do a trial test. Because now it's a fully automated system and they actually fail 90% of people in the driving test. So it becomes very difficult to pass a simple driving test.
Which city? Just to buy.
Delhi.
Huh?
Delhi.
Oh.
Delhi is all transport authority is fully automated. So they have CCTV sensors and they created an automatic test track. So which is there's no human involvement in it. You have to drive on a track. 90% of people are failing in that test. They made it very difficult.
But are they failing people?
They're failing
That's what I'm
people.
wondering. Okay, I think it's same is applicable in Bangalore because I renewed my license recently. The only difference is they are not
My
failing
license
people.
get expired after 20 years. Yeah, my license got expired and then realized that the license got expired. And if you didn't renew that within a year, so you have to reappear for the driving test.
Exactly.
Now I've been driving for 20 years.
The same with me.
And they are failing me 3 times. They failed me 3 times. I couldn't pass.
I hope you have the
I
driving
agree.
license now. I hope you have the driving license now. If you need, I can assist you with my agent.
I did the same thing. I contacted an agent and then he helped me.
Even if you check a CIBIL score, there also you get n number of calls at your moment.
The scary part is also now for education institutes. My daughter just finished 12th standard and immediately got bombarded with education counseling. I mean, it was, at least from 3 different cities. So, and that is even worse that people who, kids who are less than 18 years old, their data is out.
We should contact this agency to get data about our business.
So you're right. I think this data sharing is definitely a challenge. Hopefully with DPDP coming in, some of this should.
Some of it feel that the reason why the government is not enforcing on DPDP. They have actually announced it, but there is no timeline given as such that it is.
I think
There's a narrative which has come, right?
28 September.
28 September.
The minister
So
has
what
said
is that?
that. So the Minister Vaishnav has said that on 28 September he will release the final guidelines. Let's see. वो तारीख वाला situation नहीं होना चाहिए. But
Let's look at D&D even. Since we're there. How many times have you given D&D? I still get Bajaj Financer calls.
I agree.
So the enforcement of these rules.
Enforcement is
a problem.
I mean, D&D per se, if you look at it, TRAI, which is the regulator, has mandated that all telemarketers they begin with a series 140 or whatever it is, right? So if you don't register, then it becomes difficult. But yeah, those mandates are there. But sir, I mean, to your point, yes, I think as Indians, as a culture, we kind of end up sharing a lot of data, right? You walk into a mall, I'm sure sir would be running campaigns.
Your ballot, you have ballot the value, you leave a lot of data on the
data is there. You tell Lokesh sir आप अपना number और details दे दीजिए और आपको वो free movie ticket or whatever holiday program and all. Right, so it's us also as individuals, so that's something which we need to take care of. But yes, as organizations, if we are collecting data, then obviously we need to be secure. We need to secure it. Any privacy regulation globally you pick up, they will not stop you from collecting data, right? They're very, very clear. You collect whatever you want to collect, you do whatever you want to do, just that you have to have an informed consent taken from the individual whose data you are collecting, and then if you're sharing it with third parties, then the contractual agreement, as you said, that if that particular agency which you mentioned, if if they are leveraging the data for monetization, then it should not be tomorrow that some data gets breached, then your organization is impacted. There has to be those legal contractual clauses. And finally, you need to secure that data which is there, right? So that's how the regulations across the globe are governing it. In fact, one of the largest social media platforms which owns the most popular social media, I'll not name the
Don't worry, I'm there. You can name it.
and then we've been doing these third-party audits and all. If you actually click on an ad over there, and suppose a property ad came up, right? Or say suppose I recently bought a shirt from a retailer online, which was managing. When you go and fill the form saying, okay, please contact me, a copy of those details also goes to this online social media platform, which they, if you look at it from a business perspective, they have absolutely no business of taking that, right? If I have chosen my preferences, that okay, if it's a property, then what else? I need 2 BHK, this particular area, or this. I mean, why should you get this? But then that's where the data monetization comes in, because then they use it for other purposes, right? So, unfortunately, the country did not have regulations, but yeah, hopefully once it comes in. But yes, and then it all boils down to okay, how are we controlling our partners when they collect data on our behalf, right? I'll quickly just move forward so in the interest of time. I mean, globally once again, these are some of the key risk domains which were identified. Sorry. Yeah, these were some of the domains which got identified, where people are saying that say the cyber risk is the topmost focus area for them. 62% of people are saying that improving the security posture is their top priority. And I think coming from the same discussion that we were having, that how do you secure your data, right? Because at the end of the day, if tomorrow something happens, I mean, be it any of the data breaches that you take up, the Marriott data breach which happened, or the Air India data breach which happened, no one remembers who breached the data or what. All they remember is, oh, was my data was there with you and you breached it, right? In fact, Marriott had to undergo some legal filings also in the US because some customers went back and filed cases. It's a brand reputation loss, it's a regulatory loss, right? So cyber risk is definitely the top priority which has come out of these survey that we had. Geopolitical risk obviously is also emerging. I think probably Anil with the geopolitical, I mean the spread that you have across the globe, I'm sure you would be facing this pain and
it has become more and more frequent now. In the last 2 years, if you go to look at it, whether it is the Ukraine war or any of the wars to that extent,
right,
or the crisis which was there,
right,
or any of these, they have a direct impact in the global trade, and that impacts everyone, directly or indirectly.
So how are you hedging your bets? How are you managing it?
So, some of it you have to probably wait and watch. Like, if you look at the trade war which is happening, because of that, many of the trade transactions have almost gone on a hold. Because people are just waiting, saying that, okay, let it get clear what is finally going to happen.
Right.
Not even no order bookings are happening, particularly in the US.
Oh, okay.
It has gone to that level. Eventually it will clear up, but
Yeah.
it's a matter of for some time it will remain that type of thing. Now,
That will lead to your inventory cost and others.
yeah, I mean, in a trade business again, I mean, it's like
Correct.
how much of a risk that you want to take. So it goes with that, but at the same time, you have to be cautious not to open up too much or too many trades at that front. It is better to kind of lose certain deals rather than to do deals which will wipe out other transactions on
Right.
profitability. So that is one way to deal with it from
Absolutely, I think geopolitical is something which everyone's. I mean, it's such a fluid situation that you don't know what's going to happen. The the whole H1B scenario also, and tech companies are also trying to figure out how will they run operations, what needs to be done, right? So I think let's see. Business continuity risk is another area because while I think most of us have probably looked at our supply chains, especially after the pandemic which happened, to try and ensure that we had resilience built in. But what also happens is, have you identified it at a business process level? What happens suppose if a particular supplier is not available? Is there an impact on the business process, right? Or in the case of a ransomware attack, if I'm to rebuild my IT systems, which system should I build in first and which should come in second, right? So obviously in case of retail, ERP definitely becomes the most critical ones, but yeah, how do you still manage? Or as simple as suppose there is a outage, network outage, okay, your distant stores are not connected. How do you get the transaction data in? Right? A lot of stores now have the capability where the POS systems are locally connected so that the data keeps getting collected, and at the end of the day or after 2 days that reconciliation can happen. Right? So all of this can happen only once you have gone down to the business process level and analyze, okay, what needs to be. It's a different story from my earlier telecom operator days, where there was a particular store in a remote Maharashtra town where every month end it would report an outage. And we were like, how is it that every month end there is an outage and that it happens? So we found out that in the pressure of meeting numbers and all, they would just go and switch off the store router. Right, so you can't really plan for those, but as IT team we try when we investigated that for 3 months together, an incident is being raised that the CRM is not working, so we are unable to activate the customer. That's when we realized कि वो router ही बंद हो जाता था रात को. That's not.
Typical retail IT people.
Yeah, but
They're used to all this.
I mean, I like when business people understand IT and how it works, and
then they start creating excuses around that. Like,
yeah.
So we also identify a similar in our stores. So what it used to happen that all these stores have some internal targets on conversions. How many people are coming in and how many are converting. So to have a lower, and there is a sensor at the gates which counts the number of people are coming. So what they used to do that to reflect more conversions, so they used to switch off the people counting devices.
Oh.
So then less number of people getting counted and they have more conversions.
This is a very well-known trick.
So target achievement of conversion.
Normally,
Reading.
Now we got a new device, which even works even if you switch off, it still counts.
Oh,
So the moment we actually install the newer devices,
right.
we see that the people counting has increased, and we were wondering that how come that after implementing a new device, more people are coming into store.
so your marketing is becoming effective now.
Right. No, so that's where the challenges come in. I mean, obviously there are others as well, right? And these are some of the interesting areas. I mean, a lot of people are also talking about environmental risk, right? So especially some of the more mature retailers in the European companies, they are now looking at this very seriously. That how are their practices impacting the environment and the whole sustainability and all, right? Probably in India still to catch up. But that's what it is. Now, what that means is what are the action areas? Okay, what have people said? Okay, what they want to do. So the left part is talking about the overall survey, and the right part is talking about what retail sector is wanting to do. One thing good is both at an overall level and at a retail level. What everyone realizes is that they need to have a defined framework. They need to have defined matrices to handle this situation, right? So, which means that they need to relook at how they are managing third-party risks, and kind of it could also mean that they need to have periodic assessments done and all, right? So that's something which is important. They're talking about executive leadership, which means that the board or the team at the top realizes that there is a risk at the third party level, and I need to ensure that the leadership, the sponsorship from the leadership is present, right? So again, the 48% overall, 41% at the retail sector is what they are talking about, right? So technology and automation is an important aspect, because as a lot of people are going into tech transformations, right? So they are also leveraging some of the inbuilt controls in the technology platform to contain some of these risks. So they're saying, if suppose tomorrow I'm moving, say, the whole aspect of SAP on RISE, right? So the cloud platform will have certain technology controls which will help contain the data breaches, or will have improve the security posture. But then they're also saying, I need to go one step further and look at the beyond the default controls, what is it that I need to do. Right? So that's how kind of the whole aspect is there. At least in India, we don't have any major regulatory compliance per se on the retail sector compared to, say, any banking institution or insurance company, and also that way it's not a major aspect for you. But then yes, you need to, at least the FS sector and all is focusing a lot on that, because the regulator is mandating it. Anything wrong which happens and the regulator starts breathing down your neck, right? So that's how we see things kind of changing. But if to the group over here, if I were to ask, does any one of these resonate to something which you are also taking as actions in your respective organizations, or if something beyond this which is there for which we are not talking about?
COVID and the way the cybersecurity issues are coming, like the board or say immunity. Now the board has started discussing on cybersecurity, so that has become much easy for us CXOs to, especially for tech guys, to focus on cybersecurity and controls and things. So if you talk the same question, if you ask the same question, say 5-6 years before, we would have been discussion because companies did not have budget. Now companies understand. We might feel like my board, they are not tech savvy guys, but totally they are in around 60, 70, but they understand what is security, how data security. In cases where they start asking, if you are onboarding a partner, what is the vendor security? Have you checked the vendor security or not? So that education, the media and the government has done it, so it has become easy. But at the same time, the CFO, if you come back to CFOs, they will say, I don't want to spend cost, this kind of cost, as you rightly said, kitne cost mein ek naya store khul jayega. That is where the CFOs have challenging, and that takes time. But security has become a top most discussion, and it's become part of our.
To add on to it, but a slightly cynical view here. It has gone to board level. We have also been listed last 2 years. Have a lot of conversations at the board level. The directors, independent directors also get they're on some other boards.
Yeah.
So they also get scare stories. A breach was one of our independent directors was Nykaa, and Nykaa also had a breach. So essentially, we get questioned that way. The cynical part is coming is the CFO view is just do enough to get these guys off my back. So that usually becomes a different conversation. That okay, how much to spend and how much. So that usually, because yes, what he said earlier, the budgets were concerned. Why are you spending money for something that may happen? Now yes, it is required. There is a understanding at the board level and at the other CXO levels that yes, we need to spend some money and do stuff. But do we need to do this much? Why can't just do just enough to meet certain compliance or satisfy someone and get ahead?
That is the problem. I think what I understand, I won't name anyone, but the people I discussed with, like, board has understood there is a cyber base, there is an additional requirement cyber security, we need a good partner. But CFOs to earn their own brownie points, कि यार मैंने पैसे बचाए कमाने के, they are trying to become a hurdle. I think पहले भी ऐसे होता है कि whenever IT used to go to CFOs to ask for money, we don't have budget. But eventually got the budget. Later on, I think right now the challenge is CFO for any cyber security program to get successful. That's what I think. I'm not naming anyone. Really CFOs are.
There's a quantum of money that needs to be spent suddenly. So if your IT budget is 4% of your overall budget, suddenly cyber security adds 1 or 2% more. It really becomes a difficult conversation. That why are you spending so much?
I think the only way that you can handle the CFO, if you see that as a problem, is to use the internal auditors.
All that so Sham and the way so hota hai, but the fact is that this column has to happen. It is of course part and parcel of IT. At this column, that this eternal dance between the CFO and the CIO. Who get money. But the dance is not complicated.
Imagine what's happening.
Different perspective if you look at it. One is your internal posture within the company, and then what happens outside. And with respect to which business that you're in, if you have a supplier base, you typically find that maybe the top 10 or top 10% of your suppliers are probably contributing to 60 to 70% of your businesses. Then the tail starts. Okay. And it will be a long tail. Like in my experience, when retail, like, top 5 vendors or 10 vendors probably contribute to almost 70% of the business. And then probably you would have a vendor who is probably sitting in the Arabi or maybe some billboard somewhere or the other. And they are so very vulnerable. It may not be directly impacting you. Invariably, it will disrupt your supply chain the moment he is impacted. Yeah. So, like you said, one of the options is that okay, you classify the vendors or suppliers in a way that okay, go to more liquidate. But I get a sense saying that it's also the way you look at how information security awareness that has to spread. Like within the organization, when you look at it, there is also a posture saying that IT versus others. IT has done its work. IT does everything right, but somebody from the business has compromised something. That is how it is. The moment you look at within the organization and outside, that's also the similar kind of this thing saying that you are good, your security posture, your security framework, everything is perfect. But the vendors whom we are working with, the moment, and they get, once you come across a lot of cases, they are vulnerable to simple phishing hacks, and they would trust a lot on a larger brand. Like the moment they get a mail from your company saying that okay, and there is probably a small I or L or some differentiation in the domain name, the guys don't even bother, pay the hacker or whoever, and trusting your brand, they are becoming the victim. So I feel it's also a brand's responsibility to some extent to do a TPRM kind of activity or create some level of awareness to prevent this. Means both. It's like if you are in an ecosystem, it is their interest as well as your interest.
So what they do is typically, in my experience, is, correct me if I'm wrong, they typically clarify, they go with the top 10, top 5, top 10, 15, 20. That's why most of the organizations predominantly stick to it. And what they also do is they mandate their suppliers and the vendors to ensure that they are compliant by themselves. And to checks and balance, you take a sample on a yearly basis and do a test on your side also. Maybe a combination of your top plus maybe on the long tail you pick up few samples and do some of those. I think that's what I think. Unless otherwise, it's mandated by regulators, as I said. You end up justifying to the finance organization within your company and defending why it is critical. That's going to be there. But I think the best practice, what I have seen is the critical vendor suppliers, followed by, in the long tail, maybe a probability of the top 3, top 5, whatever you want to pick it up, and then do this thing, and also mandate them to be critical if you want to do a business with me. So that they will also be aware. So it becomes like creating a equal balance in both these sides.
I think that has to come in. And since you talked about phishing, Anil, I'm sure a lot of you would be aware. One of the new phishing techniques which are coming in this whole aspect of deepfake, right? Where and there has been actually an instance. It's a manufacturing company. There was an online meeting which was happening, and the CFO comes into the meeting, and it was actually not the CFO but actually a deep fake of the CFO, which means say if I resemble the CFO, someone superimposed and used the AI techniques to create, and he started impersonating in real time in the finance meeting to say, okay, this is, and then he said, oh, these particular payments have to be authorized and all. And it was just probably the smartness of one chap in the room who realized that some of the words that were being used were not the usual way in which the CFO would act, right? So then he said, let's wait, we'll act. And that's when they realized that actually it was not the CFO but someone using the fake to impersonate the CFO, right? So hackers are becoming intelligent by the day. The whole phishing links and all, definitely those are there. But these whole deep fakes are something which are increasing by the day.
Even through emails also.
Yeah, through emails also, and all you will have a
True, WhatsApp.
Yes,
WhatsApp.
The biggest
True
phishing
caller.
is WhatsApp.
WhatsApp, yeah, absolutely.
The MD is calling for transfer some money. Somebody
Yes.
is calling.
Yeah. No,
And
that's-
by the way, we have got emails from our own CEO itself.
Yes, we do.
This
have
is my
got the
number.
same. Yes.
Please do not. It's a group. I am not asking any money. I am in India. It's not that I'm traveling. I think that's become a regular.
We've seen some employees when we ran a phishing simulation, we did it on the name of a CEO. I mean, this is not the first time these employees
Got phished.
aware, but still because I think there's also matter that power dynamics that because the CEO is asking people. We saw one location where people collected money into a fund and were about to transfer. Come on, use your brains, guys. Why would I?
5,000 rupees.
No, buy Amazon gift card. हमने क्या बोला Amazon gift card पे दे दो. और and मुझे I don't have money to buy these gift cards, so buy it on my behalf and send it to me. और लोगों ने शुरू fund जमाना शुरू कर दिया.
But look at it from a hacker standpoint.
Yeah.
If he's running a business, his return on investment of the effort is very, very high. All he has to do is maybe 100 or 1,000 and he will get some.
So I just take this conversation ahead. So I was working with a brand. Okay, so we want to do a compliance of a particular department. We reached out to some vendors saying that we want to do a compliance. Immediately after 2-3 proposals, our brand got hacked. Oh, because they also use your data to breach so that they create that kind of a threat so that you get compliant as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And then other thing, example which he gave of a particular brand. Okay, so I hope everyone is using MyGate. So MyGate knows who is coming at your house, who is that Kamari, what is the delivery you are getting, what. They use your data left, right, and center.
Yeah.
So I don't know how we can, govern these people. I think the penalty or the law should be that if someone knows that this is the breach which their brand has done, it should be like that company should shut, overnight.
Yeah.
Then only they get that kind of a message. Otherwise, to सब कुछ चल रहा है, सबका चल रहा है.
So that's what the DPDPA rules when it is out. The penalties are going up to the tune of 150 or 200 crores.
Yeah.
200 crores. So
API का किसने?
so rules are going to get formalized. Assuming it is going to launch on 28th of September, if everything goes well, they will give a time. Government will give a time for all the organizations to comply to that. Once that cutoff starts, if there is a breach, then the company will end up paying the penalty.
You're right, but as Anil mentioned, I think the return on investment for these companies is far greater.
They find another way to hack.
उसकी 4-5 करोड़ की वैल्यूएशन होगी, राइट? वो ऑब्वियसली वो 200 करोड़ का फाइन तो देगा, वो दुकान बंद करेगा और चला जाएगा, दूसरी कंपनी बना देगा.
सब मैनेज कर दो.
दूसरे नाम से नई कंपनी बना.
हाँ, वो दूसरी कंपनी बना देगा and
The worst way of
Data to
proliferation.
It's very difficult because in retail, you take your loyalty points, or you want to make a paperless office, or you want to not to give the receipt. You require WhatsApp number or something where you have to send it. So I don't know.
So I agree. So that's there. See, I'll tell you, we worked with once again one of the larger retail companies to help them get ready for this DPDPA, right? And we saw that they were taking the number of the individual. They said we need it from a billing perspective because the invoice has to go. However, then we noticed that this number was then being used by the campaign team also to use them. And we said you need to take the consent. I mean, you take the number, that's okay, but you need to have a consent. So I hope they have incorporated because we had given them the recommendation and they said that they would. So, but yes, that taking the consent is important. It's a big task. I mean, there are.
For example, in my kind of business, we have a warranty card.
The retailers who are using the mobile number itself as a customer
Identification.
in the loyalty system.
Yeah.
Mask cover.
That becomes a unique number.
Mask cover.
You have to mask
Masking and all
it.
is
That's
there.
the rule. That's a part of the DPP.
Masking.
You have to mask it.
See, masking वगैरह है, but वही है. I mean, there's only so much that you can also do. I mean, let's face it, right? During your end of season sale, right? I mean, there's so much of rush. The poor guy at the counter, he has to manage the people, and उसमें आप अगर उसको बोलोगे भाई तू consent ले ले पहले and read out this work bias, तो he'll get his bits, and that guy is a graduate, right? उसको ये सब नहीं पड़ी, उसको अपना billing target complete करना है and आगे बढ़ना है. So practical challenges are there. I'm not saying they are not.
So in that case, so I'll take your example. One of the challenge which I face in a big retail firm, बंदा कैश देते थे, वो कैश पॉकेट में करता था, उसका बिलिंग करके देते थे.
Okay.
मतलब उतना अमाउंट का लेस बिलिंग करते थे.
Even in the example you gave of somebody reading out the consent form, right? We need to be able to prove that that guy actually read it out. So proof of consent still has to be there.
Yeah.
If you read it out, it won't be there.
It's not. You're right. So multiple ways in which you could do it. I mean, during the time of billing, as you said, if you take the number, and when the invoice goes on the number, it would have a link to your consent statement and all that. So ways and means are there to be able to establish that.
Or you can ask the customer to type in that so that the cashier does not know what he's saying.
Also, all that is there.
In the restaurants, right? To place order, they take your number. Sometimes when you scan the QR code, you have to type your number, then it comes a OTP again. So the data, I mean, it's a vicious
So, see,
cycle.
we agree
Nowadays,
that-
nobody uses the menu card. You
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
scan
scan
it,
it.
and that menu card comes on your mobile.
Correct.
So,
So-
anyways good.
Correct.
So see, it's a fact of life that definitely for the retail industries, this number and these details are important because I have to run my business. Let's face it. I don't think there is any doubt about it. So we need to just figure out ways and means in which we can secure this data and move it as per the law, which is that consent ले लो, उसको secure करो, partners को दे रहे हो तो उनके साथ contractual agreements रखो. And at the end of the day, DPDP, GDPR जितने भी laws आप उठा लो, उनका intent यही है to ensure कि कल को कोई case आता है, you are able to secure yourself. I mean, once again, this fashion retailer that we were working with, जिसकी मैं भी बात कर रहा था, जो consent नहीं लेके they were using it for, उनके ऊपर कैलिफोर्निया से किसी ने केस वो भेजा. He ordered something from California, sitting in California, in India, using their India website, saying, "Oh, you are collecting my cookies and you have not taken my consent." Right? Since we were engaged with them, we said, this is not applicable to you because he is in California. Your operations are in India. Cookie collection can happen anywhere. And so we quashed the case with the help of a legal agency. But just imagine the nuisance for the company, right? I mean, the CTO had to take time out of his work. वो लीगल हेड के साथ बैठा, हमारे साथ बैठा, हमने उसको बताया चल 2 घंटे ही गए, बट बेचारे 2 घंटे गए ना. 2 hours of the CTO is a waste of time rather than him using it somewhere else. So these are aspects which are there, but yeah, the law also helps you be safe. That also is there.
Unless you got a good legal guy, otherwise the CTO will be waiting big soon.
So I said I come from the world of telecoms जहाँ पे CTO को DRI वाले उठा के ले जाते थे. So legal वाले काम पे लगे रहते थे. So it's okay. Telecom में तो बहुत होता था.
In fact, your big four companies also. I was in one of the compliance project. वो लोग ही हमको सजेस्ट करते थे, सर ये कर दो, हम लोग कंप्लेंट कर देंगे आपको. वो लोग ही हमको गाइड कर देते. बोला सर ये नहीं है, ओके ठीक है, ऐसा बना.
Yeah, I don't know how much time do we have on our.
I think we have to put a closure now.
No?
But,
10
minutes. 10
Let's start at 10 minutes.
We have 10-15 minutes. No?
Okay.
Sir, just
I have only 5 minutes.
opinion.
Sure. I mean,
Just
keep
want
trying
to
to
share
wrap
one
up.
opinion.
Anji.
So as a customer, with plagiarism software, what we do is we submit an article which accepts plagiarism, and we have the power to delete that article from that website or that plagiarism tool. So can't we give the power to delete the data to the customer, personal data deletion to the customer.
On apps.
So n number of things will be resolved.
No, you cannot. I'll tell you why. Okay, so the law, the Indian law, the privacy law gives the power to the end user. Say suppose my data is supposed with sir when I purchased jewelry. The law says that I can go and tell the company delete my data, right? But it is the company's prerogative to delete or not. Say for example, it's as simple as that. Suppose I had purchased 10 lakh worth of jewelry. Right? Tomorrow, if he has to furnish records to the income tax departments, he needs to be able to showcase his compliance, right?
Yeah.
So it's a valid business purpose for which he is maintaining the data.
Yeah.
कल को तो फिर मैं कोई भी या फिर मैंने suppose किसी insurance company से insurance लिया, ठीक है? An insurance company while getting insurance would have asked me to go and do health checkup at some hospital. वो health records वाले के पास ही मेरा data होगा. But if I'm availing insurance, I will mandatorily have to keep my data with them because it's a valid business purpose. So the law is mandating कि आप कर सकते हो. It gives the right to the individual till the time if he or she wants to keep the relationship, business relationship, and the business also has to comply to the law.
One more point was that this SaaS user, you have your server and then you serve your client. So can't it be a semi-infrastructure kind of thing कि जो personal data customers का है that should be with the company and that will be accessed by the server of the SaaS and then whatever the business use would be there with the help of SaaS. After that it would automatically be deleted with the
सर पहली बात तो होगा डेटा डिलीशन जो है जैसे गवर्नमेंट डेटा डिलीशन का वो भी जस्ट गवर्नमेंट डेटा डिलीशन राइट डेटा है बट देयर आर अदर रूल्स लीगलिटीज जिसके कारण उसको डेटा रखना पड़ेगा पहला सेकंड क्वेश्चन SaaS की जो बात
my
है
question was कि why not keep the data
Coming
with the customer?
सर कम
Yes.
सर कस्टमर का डेटा रखोगे आप और इफ यू वांट टू कीप द कस्टमर डेटा व्हाट इज द कस्टमर डेटा anyways he has his own data he is shopped and he has all his
No,
data
I'm talking about B2B.
B2B also I'm telling you. I have worked with the B2B for 2-3 years, okay. Where we used to have B2B, B2C, both the terms, okay. A lot of B2B data used to be there with the B2B only. The companies wanted to understand the data, how much sales have, how many tier 2, tier 3 cities. That's how the data used to travel from one step to another. A lot of data used to reside with customer there only. But what happens when you keep something like customer there, you will not be able to do analysis. Then customer will not give you the information. Then how will you do the business? That's how business analytics happens. Second, there are governments comes in like what did you sold? The government will ask you information. Where did your material or whatever you were selling, where it went? We have the record. If you don't have record, then you'll be loose. So it's your company. You have to protect yourself first. Second customer.
रिटर्न करने आओगे तो आपको डेटा कहाँ मिलेगा?
Yes, important यार. आप business run करो तो आपको पहले अपने को सिक्योर करो. आपका business ज़्यादा रिस्क है.
Most important in my view, right? The data will be there. If you need to do business, you have
data
you
backup
need that data.
delete करेंगे थोड़ी
How you
backup
kind
store
of
करके
put a
उसका
governance
data
structure is important.
You have to delete from backup also. Loss.
I know that, but then practically it's not going to be possible.
I think I'm telling you, decide somewhere or other way.
So we need to see how do we kind of build a governance on top of it. You cannot do away with that.
See, I think even if the law gets notified, I'm sure there will be a lot of challenges that will come immediately from people who try to implement those.
See, you need to mask. The law will say you need to mask. For example, if you take a mobile number, other than mask it. And you need data. Without data, you can't sustain. But with data, how do you kind of build a governance on top of it? Who can access? Who cannot access? Why you need access? That is where the complete thought process and the investments will go when the law comes.
So I ask a simple question to you. You are an MNC company. How are you handling such things outside India?
We are, as per the law, so as I said once again, any privacy regulation in the world does not prohibit you from collecting data. At the time you have a valid consent, valid business purpose, you're securing the data, and you have right controls for management.
So that I got it. But is there no misuse happening?
Misuse happens. I'm not denying that misuse doesn't happen. There are companies who are in the business of collecting and providing data sets, right? Now, whether they are adhering to all processes or not, that's a secondary aspect. So, misuse does happen. But yes, there's only so much that you can do. At the end of the day, you need to ensure that your company is operating in the boundaries of the law, so that tomorrow if something comes up, you are able to defend yourself.
You have to make it mandatory.
So mandatory.
Otherwise, कोई नहीं करेगा.
नहीं, mandatory तो करना ही है. मैं आपको simple example once again going back to the world of telecoms at least. eKYC is now a norm in telecoms where you give your Aadhaar number, fingerprint, and the validation happens. I had taken a SIM card for my daughter. I mean, in my name only, but for my daughter. So when I went there, the guy at the store also said, "Sir, आपकी आधार की copy मेरे को दे." I said, "Why? You don't need it. You just need my आधार number." नहीं sir, वो मेरे manager ने बोला है कि आधार की copy रखनी. So he's to prevent himself from getting whatever his manager would have instructed, but he's now creating a new data set which he doesn't need, right? आप mandate कर भी लोगे, but
Customer awareness करो ना, फिर customer को भी awareness.
Sir, आप और मैं customer नहीं है ना sir. Sir, problem ये है कि there are those 50 crore people who are not so educated and उनको बोलोगे ये आधार देना है वो दे देंगे.
उसको छोड़ो. इसको अभी जिसके बैंक में 5 लाख रुपए पड़ा है तो उसको कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता. जिसके 50 करोड़ पड़े उसको फर्क पड़ता है.
नहीं वो 50 crore वाले भी नहीं, but awareness definitely is happening. Employee awareness is also happening, but you set a process, but not necessarily that everyone on the ground.
But it will happen. See, once it comes in, once
I went to Dubai. I want to open an account. Simple जो account opening process है, we not even following that in India.
No, see, once the rules get notified, once the see today you take banks, RBI is on top of every bank. You need to comply, and that regulator pressure is not there outside the financial services industry in India. Now, when it comes to the financial services in the outside the financial retail, for example, just take hypothetical situation, and the data privacy, the PII data, this is how it has to be handled. Then there's a regulator who is going to monitor you on a regular basis. Automatically, all these things will get implemented. But as of today, it is not there. We need to wait for 28 or whenever it comes. That's what I'm saying.
So I mean, challenges are there, but okay, just for the just another 30 seconds on this particular topic before I move. The India privacy law also imposes fines on individuals like you and me. Okay? So in case you and me are found in, say if we are impersonating someone, or just for the fun of it, I'm going to a retailer and saying, "Oh, you are misusing my data," I'm going to a bank and saying, if found guilty, even the data subject, which is you and me, can be fined up to 10,000 rupees. Yeah. So as I think sir was mentioning, so on the individual also, while there are rights of the individual, there are penalties also on the individual which we need to be.
There are also laws which are incorporated in the IT Act 2000 where if there is an issue from the IT side from the business, you will be jailed and fined both. The person who's handling it. That law is still there. पर आज तो कोई जेल नहीं गया.
कोई नहीं गया.
I think
I was in a report MNC में होता है. Both the CFO and IT head, they were jailed.
Sir, it depends.
As per law.
Law says that you will be jailed. But
Tax evasion के ऊपर कोई केस था. Both the IT head, they were supposed to report it. Even he was not aware. But because they do not have a proper controls.
that is what it is. Banks, how do you control governance?
वहाँ पे audit हुआ. Okay. And that they closed the warehouse. Entire warehouse was closed. इतना बड़ा brand. And वो जो supply chain head कहाँ पे था वो वहाँ पे पुणे में है. रातों रात.
Generally what happens that if you have any foreigner working with you, जैसे भी केस होता है ना, you will follow immediately by
No, I think interesting discussion. Just probably last couple of minutes on this before we close the discussion, right? And if you look at it across the supply chain, multiple stakeholders are there, and the organization definitely has to build in controls. The third party is definitely is the most critical. We need to ensure that those controls are there at the third party level, which means that whatever controls I have at my organization level, similar level of controls have to be there at the third party side. Those need to be periodically audited to ensure compliance, but more importantly to ensure that you are safe, because you are as safe as the weakest link in the chain, right?
Good question. If a data breach happens at the third party, because then the third party becomes the owner of the data. Still, the brand is liable because the third party is collecting data from different brands.
So it depends upon the arrangement that.
And the brand has no fault of it. The data gets compromised at the third party level. So as per this DVDP law, are you still liable?
So if a data breach happens, yeah, the first liability will come on the brand. Yeah, that okay. This because the third party would have collected data on your behalf. However, yeah, the third party is a data processor. I'm assuming that you would have certain contractual controls in place. Yeah. And that's where the third party risk management framework also comes in, that if you have the contractual controls, if you have a defined security framework and suppose you audited, right, and you found there were misses in the security posture, you would have notified, fix ABC things, and still if they did not fix, it becomes easier for you to pass on the liability to the third party, right? So, as I said, first thing will come on to you, but then if you're able to prove that, my systems were immaculate. If my systems were immaculate, but it was the third party which was breached, then the third party will breach.
Then also they will ask you what kind of third party security measures have taken before
Yeah.
you finding it at all. First thing. Second thing, they will say how frequently you are auditing the third party vendor from data security perspective. If you are unable to prove that you have not done the audit for 1 year, you will immediately.
Because sir, I mean, at the end of the day, ये सारे law
How much you can make them liable? Because the penalty is 200 crore.
अब वो अब आपके legal team में depend करेगा.
Supplier will not suddenly.
When the third party, the threat vectors are now changed in such a way that they are trying to enter into your network through third parties because they are weak. And second, that once the data is lost, between you and me could be your data loss or my data loss, but the data is lost. If it is my data loss, then my reputation will go for a task.
So you're right, the third party might not take liability. Sure. Yeah, so just kind of just closing the loop on this, how much liability you can pass on to the third party, well, that depends upon the value of the third party, the value of the contract, and how well you're able to control. Business controls obviously are important because a lot of times what happens is you can build the best of technology controls, but if the business still goes ahead and say brings on a vendor, yeah. So
Can we just take a group picture? I think.
Yeah, I think.
Many.
Now we are just
I think
30 more seconds here.
30 seconds data controls we talked about. Last 30 seconds on the interconnects. I think this is most important, that building the resiliency in the overall supply chain, where obviously we have dependence on vendor A, vendor B, right? Can we move to a model where instead of having a supply chain, I have a supply web, which I'll leave you with that thought, which means that instead of dependency on just vendor A, do I have vendor A, B, C who are there, so that the web automatically is able to take care of the overall scheme of things and my business is not disturbed. With that, gentlemen, I'll call it a day. Happy to answer any questions, but I know Mao also wants to.
No, and this conversation can continue on emails. We will drop in a thank you email with some points from here. So this is not closing here. We can always exchange notes and you can stay in touch.
Yeah.
This
But I
commission-
just thought, in the interest of time, many have to leave for the award, so they just.
Sure. No, I think we are done. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for being a